A shape older than time, seen in galaxies, in seashells, in the coils of DNA. This is the spiral, more than a symbol. It's a cosmic signature, a blueprint woven into the fabric of reality. From ancient Egypt to the Mayan pyramids, from Celtic stones to Hindu yantras, the spiral was carved, painted, revered. But not for its beauty, for its truth. The spiral is how energy moves, how consciousness grows, how the universe breathes in rhythm. It is not a line forward, it is not a circle closed, it is both, forever opening, forever returning. A memory of source hidden in the curve of becoming. The ancients knew to understand the spiral is to remember who you are, because it's not just out there in space, it's within your soul. In this episode, we'll decode the spiral. As the original sacred symbol of creation and consciousness, and reveal why every turn you've taken in life wasn't a mistake, but a motion toward remembering. Part 1. The spiral in nature and sacred geometry. The spiral doesn't belong to any one culture, it belongs to reality itself. You'll find it in the arms of the Milky Way, in the swirl of hurricanes, in the pattern of sunflower seeds, and in the double helix of DNA. It is not an ornament. It is a design language, used by nature, repeated in life, mirrored in the cosmos. In sacred geometry, this shape is not random, it's precise. Built on mathematical sequences like the Fibonacci spiral and the golden ratio, patterns that emerge again and again. As nature's way of organizing energy, growth, and flow. But the ancients didn't see it as math. They saw it as divine intelligence. The Egyptians carved spirals into the walls of their temples. The Celts inscribed triple spirals into stone. In Hindu Tantra, the spiral represents Shakti, the divine feminine force that coils and awakens as kundalini. And in Mayan glyphs, it symbolized time unfolding in cycles, never ending, only transforming. To them, the spiral wasn't a metaphor, it was a map. A map of creation, how spirit becomes form. A map of consciousness, how energy evolves. A map of the soul, how we return to source again and again, each time at a higher octave. And that's the key. The spiral isn't just repetition, it's expansion through return. It brings you back to where you started, but never as the same being. You revisit your fears, your patterns, your desires, but from a new level of insight. That's not failure. That's growth, encoded in spiral form. Mystery schools taught this in silence. Temples were built with spiral corridors. Initiates moved in circular paths, not just to walk, but to transform. The very shape of the spiral rewires perception. It draws the mind inward, and then upward. It invites you to remember, you are not on a straight line to somewhere else. You are on a spiral path back to yourself. And every spiral in nature, from the seed to the galaxy, is whispering the same secret. Creation is not linear. It is a dance of return. In the next part, we'll follow that return inward and uncover how the spiral reflects the architecture of the soul, because this symbol isn't just around you, it's the blueprint of your very being. Part 2. The spiral as the blueprint of the soul. What if your soul isn't a point, but a path? Not a linear journey from A to B, but a spiral ascent. Always returning, but never repeating. Across esoteric traditions, the soul is described in layers, circles within circles, wheels within wheels, each turn a memory, each loop a lesson, and always a return to the center. The Gnostics spoke of the soul's descent through emanations, from source into matter, from light into shadow, each spiral turn further from unity, yet secretly coded with the way back. In Kabbalah, the tree of life is not just a ladder upward. It spirals through dimensions, 10 sephirot, infinite pathways, always spiraling between expansion and contraction. In yogic traditions, kundalini is coiled at the base of the spine, a sleeping spiral of divine energy. And when awakened, it doesn't shoot upward in a line. It dances, serpentine, spiraling through chakras, unlocking levels of awareness as it moves. Why? Because consciousness doesn't evolve in straight lines. It opens in spirals. Every time you revisit an old pattern, an old wound, you think, I thought I already healed this. But maybe you're not going backward, you're just seeing it again. From a higher spiral, the spiral is how the soul learns, through cycles, through rhythm, through returning to the same point, but with more light. And when the spiral is distorted, we get stuck in loops, in karma, in emotional repetition that feels like fate. But when the spiral is aligned, you begin to remember. You remember that life is not here to punish you, but to mirror you, to turn you inward again and again, until what once felt like chaos reveals itself as pattern. This is why the spiral is found in sacred labyrinths, not to confuse you, but to initiate you, to teach you how to walk in circles, until your center becomes clear. Your soul is not trapped in the spiral. It is shaped by it, because every spiral carries a center, and at the center is stillness, the unchanging self, the witness. In the next part, we'll explore what happens when the spiral misaligns, when the loops of learning become cages of pain, and how trauma twists the spiral inward, locking the soul in repetition, until it learns how to rise again. Because the spiral can ascend, but it can also collapse. Part 3: Loops, Trauma, and the Spiral of Suffering. Not all spirals ascend. Some fall inward, tightening, constricting, pulling you into cycles that feel endless. These are the trauma spirals, patterns that repeat, not because you didn't learn, but because the energy never completed its loop. The same arguments, the same relationships, the same fears that dress up in new clothes, but always end the same way. You're not cursed. You're caught in a spiral that's been twisted, because trauma doesn't move in straight lines. It loops. It fragments time and makes the present feel like the past. Your nervous system remembers, even if your mind forgets. And so you spin, not through growth, but through reaction. This is the spiral of samsara, of karmic inertia. The Buddhists spoke of it not as punishment, but as pattern, energy-seeking resolution through repetition. But the ancients knew repetition is not the enemy. Unconscious repetition is. When you don't realize the spiral exists, you believe the pattern is life itself. You settle, you numb, you call the loop destiny. But something deeper in you resists. It aches, it pulls, it whispers, this isn't the end. Because inside every downward spiral is the seed of reversal. Sufi mystics danced in spirals, not for performance, but to repattern the soul. Each turn was a prayer, each movement a soft defiance against stagnation. In sacred healing, spiral motion is used to dislodge energy, to liberate memory trapped in the cells, to remind the body of the rhythm it forgot. Because trauma distorts the spiral, while awareness untwists it, letting memory breathe again. And once you become aware, the loop becomes a ladder. You revisit the pain, but not as a victim, as an alchemist. You begin to walk through the spiral instead of being dragged by it. And something changes. The story loosens. The emotion breathes. The soul starts to rise. You don't erase the spiral, you complete it. Because healing isn't a break. It's a return, not to who you were, but to who you were before the distortion. In the next part, we'll explore how ancient traditions used spiral energy to heal, to awaken, and to activate higher states of consciousness. Because when the spiral is aligned, it doesn't just free you from loops. It lifts you into light. Part 4, Spiral Activation and Ascension Codes. When you complete the wounded spiral, you don't just heal, you activate. You awaken a deeper spiral. One that doesn't loop in suffering, but rises in light. Ancient traditions knew this secret. The spiral was not only the map of descent, it was the key to ascent. In kundalini yoga, the serpent energy coils upward in a spiral, piercing the chakras, realigning soul with source. In shamanic rituals, healers dance in spirals around the fire, not to honor the flame, but to ignite the flame within. In sacred architecture, temples were designed with spiral stairways, leading the initiate not just higher in space, but higher in consciousness. Because the spiral doesn't move randomly. It moves with intention, with rhythm, with sacred memory. And when the spiral is activated consciously, something profound happens. Your life stops repeating unconsciously. Patterns once built from pain start spinning toward purpose. Your emotions stop trapping you. They start lifting you. You no longer fight the turnings, you ride them. Breath becomes spiral. Awareness becomes spiral. Even your cells begin to vibrate to the rhythm of cosmic memory. Because spiral motion is not just movement, it is awakening. In ancient mystery schools, this was the hidden teaching: you are the spiral. You are the seed. You are the dance of remembrance unfolding. And when your spiral rises true, aligned, coherent, radiant, you don't just heal yourself. You reattune to the song of the cosmos, because the spiral inside you is not separate from the spiral of the stars. It is the same breath, the same pattern, the same pulse. In the next part, we'll step beyond the personal journey and see how the spiral is not only within you, but is the very consciousness of the universe itself. Because when you awaken your spiral, you remember you were never moving through the cosmos. You are the cosmos, moving through yourself. Part 5, The Spiral as Universal Consciousness. The spiral is not a symbol created by humans. It is the breath of the universe made visible, from the unfurling of a fern to the dance of galaxies across the void. The spiral is the way consciousness moves. It is expansion through return, creation through remembrance. Every pulse of a star, every beat of your heart, every cycle of your breath, it's all spiral motion, opening, closing, opening again. In ancient cosmologies, the spiral wasn't decoration, it was origin. The Hopi described the beginning of life as a spiral descending into form. The Dogon of Mali depicted the universe as a spiral born from the Po seed. In Vedic thought, The breath of Brahman expands and contracts in endless spirals of existence. Because creation was never a straight act. It was a spiral unfolding, an intelligence remembering itself through infinite forms. The spiral is how oneness becomes many. And how many remember they were always one. Even your soul follows this rhythm. It descends into body. It spirals through lifetimes. It loops through lessons, not to lose itself, but to gather the memory of light through experience. Every hardship, every triumph, every cycle that felt like an endless return was actually a higher turn of the spiral, pulling you closer to truth. You were never moving in circles. You were rising. And just as your soul spirals upward, so does the consciousness of the universe. Galaxies spin, not from chaos, but in tune with the breath of existence, spiraling light into form and form back into memory, always returning, always unfolding. The spiral is the universe learning itself. Through stars, through oceans, through you. You are not separate from it. You are it. You are a spiral of awareness, a curve of memory and motion, a breath of the infinite, taking form for a moment, only to unfold again into the formless. And when you begin to live in spiral awareness, you stop fearing repetition. You see every return as a higher octave of being. You trust the rhythm of growth. You surrender to the dance of expansion. The spiral does not lead you outward. It draws you inward. It brings you home through the sacred turn inward. And now, in the final closing, we'll return to the simplest, oldest truth of all. You were never separate from the spiral. You were the spiral, dreaming yourself into form. Final CTA. You are the spiral. You were never lost. You were never broken. You were spiraling all along. Every turn you thought was failure was an ascent. Every loop you thought was punishment was a refinement. Every return to an old pattern was a higher call to remember. You are not outside the spiral. You are the spiral remembering itself in motion. The living breath of consciousness moving through layers of experience, gathering the memory of light. You are the seed spiraling into the tree, the galaxy swirling into form, the breath curving back into silence. You are not here to escape the spiral. You are here to embody it, to move as its rhythm, to become the pulse of becoming, to expand it, to let it carry you back. Not to somewhere else, but to the center you never truly left. The ancients didn't worship the spiral. They became it, living temples of expansion, living proofs that growth is not a line, but a return in higher truth. And now you remember, you are not a mistake, you are not a deviation, you are the spiral dreaming itself awake. Share this remembrance with those who are ready, because the spiral is not a teaching, it is a vibration dash. And when enough of us remember, we do not change the world, we reawaken it. Welcome back to the dance. Welcome back to the spiral.